Samir, you heard Karen say that Russia is now an international pariah. Of course, Russia is not a global pariah. Russia is not a pariah for the world's democracies. And I'm not just talking about India. I'm talking about Brazil and South Africa and Mexico and a whole bunch of countries. Tell me how you look at the West saying Putin is a war criminal, they need to be cut off, no Russian attendees at the WEF, Wimbledon, the Olympics. I mean, you know, whether you're talking culture or economics.
Ice hockey world championships, that's the key.
For example, how do you relate to that? And not just from an Indian perspective.
Actually, I don't relate to it. I think they've gone bonkers. That's my response when you shut down a musical performance or a ballet performance or prevent folks from participating in sports events. I think a continent has gone mad. That's my response to it. I don't relate to it at all. It's alien. I mean, it's like me saying that Americans are not permitted in India because they threw the Afghanis under the truck, right? Or they decided to invade Iraq and bomb them to the Stone Age. You know, the fact is that terrible things happen. And we must condone them, we must oppose them, we must resist them, we must do everything under our powers to prevent them from happening again. But this Manichean binary choices is an old European obsession, and God bless you for it. But I'm not going to be part of your binary decision making. Russians, like Karen rightly indicated, is more than Putin. And I think the test for the relationship that Russia has with the rest of the world, and I think that's your question, is going to be whether the Russian proposition post what's happened now is attractive and compelling and offers some benefits to the rest of the world. And I suspect, and this is now, listen, I like the Europeans. I'm married to one, so don't get me wrong. But I think the challenge for Russia is going to be that there will be very few takers for Russia generally. And that's what I was discussing with Alex, that it's not whether India needs to make a choice about Russia. If Russia does not get its act together at $5 trillion, Russia has no stake in the Indian future. They have counted themselves out. It's not, we don't have to do anything. They're doing it themselves. It's an IKEA store. So for me, I think the question is that does Russia have anything to offer to the world? And Russia, in its current state, is struggling to provide any sense of partnership, benefits and offerings.
And how much has your view changed on that issue as a consequence of the invasion of Ukraine?
Okay, now, on a side note, I'm not a military expert like Alex again, but if you were to look at Armenia and then Ukraine, we should really be rethinking our defense planning in many parts of the world. I think that weaponry is not doing too well. That's one takeaway.
So India should not be having such a strong defense
Like I said, I'm not a defense
Russia.
expert, but I suspect that many experts around the world would be watching these conflicts quite closely to think about their own armies and planning purposes for defense and security apparatuses. But as a consequence of this, I think fundamentally something has changed. Let me give you an example of the BRICS. Now, there was a statement by our foreign minister a few days ago that I read, which says that there are 3 out of the 5 countries who have never violated sovereignty of anyone else and territorial integrity. You know, that's something big coming from within a grouping conversation. So I think it is going to have consequences. The idea that it's not going to affect brand Russia going ahead is absolutely rubbish. Russia has been impacted terribly. Don't, just because people are not joining the performative chorus of Europe and condemning them and giving a screen to the man to come and make a speech doesn't mean that we like the Russians. I think there is a false assumption here that just because you are not shouting it out loud means that you have any affinity to the actions of Russia. I think there's a difference between the two. The Russian proposition has very few takers anywhere in the world, but condemning them and sending them to Saturn to live thereafter.
Alex wants to jump in, but can we at least say that buying a lot more oil from the Russians doesn't mean that you are that bothered by them?
So, I was telling someone else in the morning, in the maths class, first thing that we learned was 4 into 0 is still 0. So even if I was to buy 4 times more oil than Russian, it's so negligible that Germany would chew that up in the afternoon, like my foreign minister mentioned. So it doesn't really matter. Me buying oil from Russia is not a factor here other than selling a Financial Times struggling newspaper somewhere. It doesn't really matter to me.
Alex?
Yeah, I guess the basic message here is, and this is what I think we in the West are misreading. I think we're looking at this crisis for understandable reasons from a very Eurocentric perspective. So, for instance, we took a lot of joy in seeing the UN vote, 141 condemning Russia, 35 abstaining, and 4 being in favor of Russia. But those 141 votes were actually quite soft. They were scrambled in basically last minute. And the 35 votes that abstained, they were over half of the world's population. So basically the rest of the world, Asia, India, Africa, which is often non-aligned, China, even Latin America are telling us a story. They're saying that, listen, this is your war. It's once again a European war. Yes, it's about your territorial integrity. We understand where you're coming from. But listen, it has ramifications on us, on inflation, on food prices, on energy prices, and therefore sort out your own mess. And in that sense, I don't want to draw too big of a conclusion from this, but there is this element of a 1989 moment in the sense that we believed then that this is the end of history, everyone is going to go to liberal democracy, social market economy and globalization, and that didn't really happen. And in that sense, the West needs to refigure that, are we looking at a value-based world order, which we've been pushing either through war or otherwise, or are we looking at a rules-based world order?
So one thing that I think that you two agree on, maybe Karen as well, we just haven't gotten to you yet, is that Biden's statement of this is about democracies versus autocracies, you would say that was a mistake.
Well, I'm not saying it's a mistake because, to be honest, I think this administration has done a great job. I'm an avid transatlanticist and, I'm really excited that Finland is going to NATO and thanks Joe Biden and the rest of it. But I think it's too simplistic to say that we're moving towards some kind of a new Cold War with a liberal world order and an authoritarian world order. I think the alliances are going to be much more flexible than what we are used to. I also don't think that we're going towards an era, which is a lot of the talk here at WEF, of deglobalization. I think we'll have more regionalization of globalization, but it's not going to go away. And that's why I saw one really interesting one. I don't remember which minister it was, who said that, yeah, all of you Westerners are talking about deglobalization, but if we look at it here in our part of the world, Asia, it's never been stronger. It's just that it's not an American or European globalization. I think these are kinds of things which feel uncomfortable for us, but we need to have a conversation about them. So.